Hello world, let's talk about babies, the baby part of the human reproduction cycle. Now here we talked about the fundus of the uterus at the beginning when we talked about the woman's body. So the fundus is the top of the uterus. And as the baby gets bigger, the uterus gets bigger to hold it. And so the top of the uterus goes up higher and higher into the woman's abdomen. So that at the ninth month, the fundal height, the top of the uterus, is actually right underneath her rib cage and her lungs in that area. This is why it becomes hard to breathe in the ninth month because there's really not much room in there. The baby's taking up almost everything. So about the fifth month, so month 5 is approximately when the baby is at the level of the belly button. And then it keeps going. So you can actually tell how far along a woman is by measuring, she lays down on her back and somebody feels around in her stomach and feels where the top of the fundus is. And you can actually measure it with a measuring tape and tell how far along she is in her pregnancy. And this is pretty much true for every woman, no matter what size she is. Now, one thing I want to show you, if you notice there's some dotted lines on the side here where it says after dropping, there's a point at which the baby which should be head down engages into the pelvic girdle, the bones that make up the woman's hips. And once the baby engages head down into that area, the woman's stomach literally drops. This is called when the baby drops. So it goes from being high up here to kind of being lower. And so that is a sign that the baby's getting ready for birth. Now, let's talk about the joys of pregnancy. For many women, pregnancy is the best time of their life. Now, obviously, we talked about discomfort, we talked about possible problems, but what I didn't mention before is that all of that hormones that are keeping the baby alive, keeping your body in a good pregnancy, also mean most women are extremely happy. I mean, they might cry at the drop of a hat, but they're very happy. Now, the rare case, some women undergo what is called prepartum depression, but most women, um, a lot of their emotional uh, needs become a lot easier to meet because they are just generally happier because their body's pregnant. Um, so it doesn't even mean every pregnancy is going to be bad. And even the same woman can have very different pregnancies. I had a lot more throwing up with one pregnancy versus another, for example. Some women don't even throw up at all during their first trimester. Some women don't even know they're pregnant until second or third trimester because they just don't feel any different. Um, most of the time, most women know that something's definitely changed. But, except for maybe a little back pain or a little discomfort, pregnancy is not always awful. So I just want you to know that it can be a very positive time in a woman's life. How you feel about the pregnancy also tends to affect how you feel, period. So I've talked to a lot of women who, well, let's say they're very scared about how things were going to go after the baby's born. Maybe they didn't have support from their partner. Maybe they don't have a partner and they're going to have to be facing single parenting. That fear, those kind of bad situational things, can actually cause a woman to feel worse physically as well during her pregnancy. And if she had another pregnancy where none of that was present, she might be like, oh, I actually enjoy pregnancy, right? So our emotional responses are very strongly tied to our mental state and vice versa. Now, the thing you need to know is that the more pregnancies you have, the quicker your body responds all over your body to your pregnancy hormones. And for example, relaxin is a hormone that is released during pregnancy, and that actually makes your ligaments more loose. And what that does, like I mentioned, symphysis pubis disorder or SPD, that can make them loosen too much, but you'll be finding all of your joints are cracking and popping and getting looser. Um, In your second pregnancy, your belly is going to pop out earlier. You're going to look pregnant earlier. In your third pregnancy, your baby might drop a month before you give birth instead of a week before. One thing I wanted to let you guys know is that I do not recommend teen pregnancy. However, teen mothers do, according to the research, tend to have the best time with pregnancy if, this is a really big if they eat right, they get their supplements, they have emotional and relational support, and they get exercise. I can speak about this as a personal example. When I used to work in the hospital, most of the time I spent was working labor and delivery. And I did get to see some very much older women and some very much younger women in the teens giving birth. And the older women, I mean, I'm sorry, but that muscle tone does start going as you get older. And whereas the teen mothers, man, they just pop those babies out, lickety split. Push, push, baby's there, done. And then the next day, they don't even look like they're pregnant. They're just popped back to normal, okay? So physically, the teen girl body, if she has sufficient supplements, if she's well nutrition, if she's got exercise, if she's got emotional support, she's not doing anything stupid like taking drugs, she is going to have probably an easier time of pregnancy than an older woman would. But I do not recommend teen pregnancy. I just want you to know that, okay? So because I'm talking about babies, I thought I'd show a couple pictures of me and my babies. So in the bottom right, that's my first baby. And in the top left, that's going to be me pregnant with what is now our fifth child. And I enjoyed my pregnancies very much, but I also enjoyed being done with them. The top picture there, where I look like a pregnant ninja type person, I gave birth, I think, 3 or 4 days after that picture was taken. So prenatal care, how do you take care of yourself when pregnant? Or for male partners, how do you help your partner take care of themselves so that she can have a good pregnancy? Um, Pregnancy can be healthy and enjoyable with proper prenatal care. And if I have to talk to any of you about taking drugs during pregnancy, I'd rather just, go smack you upside the head. No drugs, of course not. You don't take marijuana, you don't take alcohol, you don't do nicotine, nothing. Okay? Every single drug you take goes straight to the baby. This is why when we talked about drugs and addiction, and I talked about how horrible it was if a child has been exposed to drugs in the womb, it actually changes how they are formed in the womb. Their brain is affected. The number one worst drug, if you remember, alcohol. Number two, marijuana. Top two worst drugs ever for a baby, and especially if they're affected by it early in the first trimester. That is the worst time for a baby to be exposed to drugs. So there's no safe level of any drugs. You need to have good nutrition and supplements. That means you need to be getting vitamins if you're not eating like the leafiest greeny, stuff ever. If you're eating McNuggets or you're just trying to choke down a couple of crackers because you feel sick, then you have to take good supplements. There need to be good regular doctor appointments so that both mom and baby can be checked on. This catches problems early while they can still be fixed or helped. It's extremely important that a pregnant woman exercises. And walking is exercise, swimming is exercise. There's all kinds of things. You don't have to be, boxing or riding a horse. Those are not recommended for pregnant women. It just requires you to have some kind of muscle tone because you won't feel like getting up and moving around much while you're pregnant. But it's so important during birth that women have muscle tone. They are able to give birth because I'm not sure if y'all have noticed, but birth is hard. It is extremely challenging. Um, you exert muscles you didn't even know you had, and in ways that you never thought you would. I remember being shocked how sore my back was after birth because I was using my arms to pull myself up while I was pushing, And that apparently I hadn't been doing enough push-ups before I gave birth, and so my arms were very out of shape, and that hurt. So the more exercise you have, the better you'll do during birth, and the healthier you'll be in general. You need lots of water, lots and lots and lots of water. The reason why is because you more than, I think, 1.5 to 2 times the amount of blood volume, you are going to create more blood while you're pregnant. And so you need to drink lots of water to make sure that you have enough water in your body. Also, the water helps flush your body out because you're not just peeing for one anymore, you're peeing for two. So you have to get all of the baby's things that need to be flushed out as well as yours out through the pee, which requires a lot of water. Most women need to rest very much more than they expect. 2 to 4 more hours of sleep a night. So if a woman normally needs 7 hours of sleep a night, she needs 9 to 11 hours of sleep while pregnant. If she normally needs 9 hours of sleep a night, then she needs 11 to 14 hours of sleep. Now, they don't necessarily have to happen at night. It could be you sleep 9 hours at night and then take a 2 hour nap. That is good. It's good to rest while you're pregnant. It doesn't show weakness. It shows that you're smart because you're letting your body do what it needs to do to grow the baby. And growing a baby is a lot of work. It actually requires a lot of nutrition, a lot of, calories to do the work of supporting a body that is growing a baby. And of course, emotional support is so very, very important. That has to be part of your prenatal care. Now let's talk about the birth. I thought this was kind of funny. Nurse handing me a newborn. You got this? Me. Sometimes I have to dig through the trash to reread the instructions for macaroni and cheese. Yeah. And this one yeah. This is somebody with a very dark sense of humor, but I thought it was hilarious. They made a cheese dip for the chips at a baby shower and they put a baby in it so it looked like a dirty diaper. Yeah, you had to have done a lot of diapers maybe to find this as funny as I find it. It's very dark. Anyway, so let's talk about birth. Birth is not so bad, and even if it is, you can just forget about it. That's because part of the hormonal aspects, the things that are being rushing through your body while you're giving birth, cortisol, if you remember from our trauma, cortisol actually interferes with your memory. And so you are not going to be able to remember giving birth as well as someone else who was there who was not you giving birth. So you'll just really forget about it. So it can and should be managed to make it a positive experience. It doesn't have to be a bad experience. Okay? For as far as drugs, if you say, I don't want to go through any pain, everything that's worthwhile requires some sacrifice. And birth is absolutely the top of the line in terms of the amount of reward you get for the sacrifice you put in. Because getting that baby, it is I have no words for how amazing it is to get the baby after the birth. It's completely, you'd go through birth 10 times over just to get that baby. It's wonderful. But birth hurts, okay? All drugs that take away pain have an effect that's not a good effect on you as well. So the painlessness is not, it's not free. If you get an epidural, that means you either can't walk, or if you can walk, you can't push very well. If you get Demerol, if you get fentanyl, there's all kinds of drugs you can take, but they're either going to affect the baby or they're going to affect you. What you need to know is that laying on your back to give birth is the worst position ever. If somebody tells you to lay on your back to give birth, you tell them, get out of my way. I need to squat. I need to be on my hands and knees. I need to be, whatever position feels the best to you is what you need to do. Do not listen to other people telling you what to do when you are the one giving birth. Okay? Don't listen to them. Birthing professionals should be helping you do it, not telling you how they want you to do it. You are the one in charge of your birth. And do not give anyone else your power. It is your power, it's your body, it's your baby. So give birth how you want to give birth. One of the best, or the best way of giving birth, I think, is giving birth in water, laboring and giving birth in water, if you can. The lowest pain option, absolutely. The less pain you have, the easier and quicker your body does. So, for example, when I was giving birth to my current 5-year-old, um, the lady checked me when we got into the hospital because with me, my water always breaks before my labor really starts. So labor had started after my water broke. She checked me, said I was 4 centimeters. You need to get to 10 for birth. She says, "Yeah, go lay in the tub and handle the pains in the tub." So I got in the tub. An hour later, I went from 4 to 10 in an hour, and that is not supposed to happen. But I was pushing my baby at, an hour later. And that's because water is amazing for helping you get the baby out. It supports you, it causes so much less pain, and you can give birth in water very safely. Babies don't breathe until their face hits the air. So if they come out in water, they don't breathe until you bring them up to the air. Obviously, don't hold them down under the water after they're out. Um, but it's a very natural, comfortable way for the baby to be born. It's also very natural and comfortable for the mother. So both, I just 100% recommend water births if you can manage it. So my number one piece of advice for giving birth, keep your eyes on the prize. You have to remember why you're doing this. You won't feel like a victim then. Visualize holding your baby. It will all be over. One thing you need to know is that all women experience a period of time right before they actually give birth where they become convinced that they cannot give birth. Um, to anyone who's experienced with watching women give birth, this is the sign that the baby's about to come. It's called transition. And for some reason, transition feels like a freight train that makes you think that there is absolutely no way you can survive it. There's no way you can just pop that baby out. It's not going to happen. And so when that happens, the baby is coming and it is going and you are doing it, but you will feel that you cannot. This is one of the reasons why a lot of women tend to ask for drugs. Of course, once you've hit transition, it's too late for drugs. But what it's still plenty of time for is support. This is why you need to have a support person at your birth. It could be the partner, it could be a parent, it could be a friend. You need to have someone at your birth telling you that you can do it because you have completely lost your belief in yourself. Even the most proud, I can do this. I did all the Bradley classes. I did all the Lamaze classes. This hits everybody equally. So you need to know that you can do it, and you need somebody to remind you that you can do it when you're doing it. Now, after birth, it's very likely you'll be given a drug to help your body deliver the placenta, called Pitocin. You don't need it, but the delivery of the placenta is the third stage of birth. Most doctors give the drug because they don't like the placenta delivery to take very long. As long as the placenta is still inside of you, you're still bleeding. And so they want to get that done as quickly as possible. It's very normal for it to take up to an hour for the placenta to deliver naturally because your body's tired. Like after you pop that baby out, you are tuckered out, So what often they'll do is they'll give you the Pitocin and then at least every single time in my experience, I don't know about other women, the nurse will massage your uterus to try to push the placenta out. And if you thought birth was bad, just wait till someone tries to massage your very sore uterus and attempt to push your placenta out. Yeah. At that point, you need to have the baby on your chest so you can think happy thoughts while someone does this to you. And so that's why it's called the golden hour. The hour after giving birth is incredibly important for the mother and the child to be together. The bonding that happens during this time is incredibly important. The whole first hour, it is important for the mother and child to be together. The weighing, the bathing, the whatever else they want to do to the baby, that can wait. It can wait. The baby came out naked, the baby's fine, baby doesn't need to be dressed, baby just needs skin to skin contact with their mother. Ideally, this should be happening in a quiet, darkened environment because the baby just underwent a whole heck of a lot of trauma. I mean, can you just imagine being shot out the birth canal, right? It's a lot. And you can just take a towel, rub them off a little bit, get the squishy stuff off, snuggle them up next, skin to skin to the mama. Okay, babies and mamas just spent, 40 weeks literally attached to each other. They do not need clothes in between them. So skin to skin is best. It helps the baby regulate their temperature when they're skin to skin with their mother, and it also does an enormous amount of good for all kinds of brain connections and things that are happening. I would have to go on for another hour to explain why it's so important for mother and child to be next to each other. Now, the only time this should ever be interrupted, because the baby needs its mother and the mother needs the baby, the only time this should be interrupted is if either the baby or the mother's life is in danger. Okay? That is the only time. If the baby's not breathing when they come out, it is much more important that they be, resuscitated than it is that they lay on their mother's tummy. If the mother starts bleeding and needs to have, some kind of emergency surgery to cause the bleeding to stop, then yeah, it's okay to have somebody else hold the baby. But the baby should be held, not just plopped into a cradle somewhere. They will freak out. They've been cuddled up in this quiet, tight little area. They need to be snuggled after birth, not plopped into a cradle. Okay? Babies need cuddling and skin to skin contact. Now, this last thing I have here, it is a image that I want to mention to you guys and something you can look at later. There are 3 different stages of moods that happen after birth. Okay, remember we talked about the incredible high of the emotions that follows the really high hormone levels? That all crashes after birth. And as your body gets back to normal hormone levels, it's very normal for you to have an emotional crash as well. Lots and lots of tears, lots of I can't do this. What was I thinking giving birth? This is normal. So that's going to be the gray section here. There's no mood disorder. There's no problem. You're tired. You're forgetful. There's lots of things going on. Okay. You can have the baby blues. That's where you actually are feeling depressed. And then there's postpartum depression, and that's the serious stuff. That's where you need help. So I want you guys to take a look at that and see the difference between these things. And finally, I'm going to end with a picture of a really cute little baby because babies are cute and they're so worth it. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed.